Although the lunar module computer will take you all the way up to rendezvous, or all the way down to the surface of the moon by itself, it will only do that if all the switches are in the right position, so that it's being told what it needs to know. And as you can see, there are a lot of switches to get in the right position. You can, of course, fly the LEM yourself if you want to, using these two controls. Then the main displays, the computer, which way up are you, how much fuel have you got left, and the one everybody wants to see light up very gently, that one, the lunar contact light. As you come in over 500 feet, the job is to find somewhere smooth to set down and land on. The commander has 2 minutes to do that before he runs out of fuel. So he is looking out of the window as if his life depended on it, which it does. And the lunar module pilot is telling him all he needs to know from that display there, which says you're going forward or sideways at a certain number of feet per second, and this display here that says you're going up or down at so many feet per second. So he's calling out things like 200 feet, forward at 8, down at 5. The name of the game, of course, is to land on the surface of the moon going forward or sideways at 0 and downwards at a very small number. Looks easy. But as we watch the landing of Apollo 11, remember what I said about getting the switches in the right position.
50 down at 2.5. 19 forward. 3.5 down. 220 feet. 13 forward. 11 forward, coming down nicely. 200 feet. 4.5 down. 5.5 down.
Let's just stop the landing there for a minute while I tell you about all the other people who were doing it too. The people the crew were calling Houston. There were about 70 of them, and they were split into 4 shifts. Their average age was under 30, and this was their office, the Mission Operations Control Room. Here's what everybody did. Guido, the guidance and navigation officer. Remember him? You'll be meeting one. Fido, every spacecraft maneuver was his responsibility. Retro, bringing them back safely to Earth. Here, the flight surgeon. Here, the capsule communicator, the astronaut in constant contact with the crew. And over here, 2 sets of engineers. One set watching all the systems on board the command module, the other watching all the systems on board the lunar module, and everybody watching very carefully. Up here, the hot seat, the flight director, the boss. Now, while all you and I heard during the mission was the capsule communicator talking to the crew, in here, everybody was talking to everybody else on their own internal communications network called the flight director's loop. Listen to what the landing was like on that.
Got us locked up there, telecom?
Okay, it's just real weak flight.
Okay. How are you looking? All your systems go?
That's a firm flight.
How about you, control?
We look good.
Guidance, you have
Getting the
it?
angle, bro.
Fido, how about you?
We go. Use them before we are on. No problem.
Right.
The flight director in charge, whose voice you heard there, was Gene Kranz.
We came on board about 8 o'clock in the morning of July 20th. And it was sort of like you were all set up for a big game. I think everyone had the sweaty palms. They were sort of nervous. We checked in with the other controllers to more or less get the status of the overall spacecraft, and it looked like everything was going great for us. And as soon as the spacecraft came over, the first thing that we noted was that our communications were very ratty. They were poor. They were dropping in and out. And it seemed that it took that initial problem to sort of mobilize the team to more or less the frame of mind, hey, this is just another training exercise. We got problems, that's what we're trained to work on, so let's have at it.
This is the guidance officer I said you'd meet, Steve Bales. He was monitoring navigation, and therefore any navigational involvement on the part of Apollo's computer.
Unfortunately, we had started the LEM guidance computer off with a navigational error. It was approximately 14 miles an hour. What that means is the guidance computer thinks that it is going toward the moon 14 miles an hour slower than it really is.
The only thing that could save the situation was an update from the landing radar, telling the onboard computer that it was wrong. The astronauts could do nothing to help.
Radar flight looks good. Right.
10%.
Right. 2,000 foot Del H.
Good lock on.
At that point, I started to relax a little bit because the worst problem I thought we could ever have in a landing was a navigation problem. Just 20 seconds after we had started to correct the state vector error, first program alarm occurred.
1202 alarm.
Right, retro. Go retro. Throttle down. 6 plus 2, 5.
Give us the reading on the 1202 program alarm.
That means the computer was too overloaded to do everything it was supposed to. Bales had 20 seconds. If in that time the computer stopped navigating, or there was one more alarm, he'd have to cancel the landing immediately.
We're going that flight.
We're going that alarm?
Roger, we got you. We're going
if
that
it doesn't
alarm.
reoccur, we'll be go.
Roger.
He's taking in a duct H now.
Roger.
Roger. 330.
Did you get the
6
throttle
plus
down?
25, throttle down. 6 plus 25, throttle down.
Were you scared?
Scared absolutely to death, but I was not as scared during the alarms as I was when we started the landing.
What we had to do is to make sure that if for any reason we would have an accident during the actual landing phase, that we had the information to tell us why the accident occurred. So the communications and, in fact, the telemetry were extremely important.
What you're actually saying is that if people died, you had to know why.
We have to know why. That is absolutely correct.
Okay, we still got landing radar guidance.
Affirm.
Okay, is it converged?
It's beautiful.
Is it converged?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, all flight controllers, go for landing. Retro.
Go.
Fido.
Go.
Guidance.
Go.
Control.
Manual
Go.
attitude
Telcom.
control
Go.
is
GNC.
Go.
Ecom.
Roger, copy.
Surgeon.
Go.
Capcom, we're go for landing.
Eagle, Houston, you're go for landing, over. 1201. Roger, 1201 alarm.
1201 alarm.
Same type, we're go flight.
Okay,
We're go. Same type, we're go. Happy shadow up there.
One of the major problems caused by the 5 computer emergencies during descent was that the crew were able to look out and see where they were only in the last few minutes. So they weren't exactly happy.
We were certainly aware of some of the problems. We knew we had a tight fuel budget. We didn't know the computer was going to act up on us as it did.
The alarms had occurred because a rendezvous radar switch had been left on, flooding the computer with an overload of data it didn't even need during the landing.
A switch was in the place that we told the crew to put it. We had not been super smart. If we'd have been super smart in the 2 or 3 months before the landing and have thought about this circuit and had thought about what the possible implications might be, then we'd have caught it.
Forward. Good. 40 feet down, 2.5. Picking up some dust. 30 feet, 2.5 down. Straight shadow. 4 forward. 4 forward, drift into the right a little.
30. 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Forward.
They had 30 seconds of fuel left.
Contact light. Okay, engine stop. ACA at a descent. Mode control both auto. Descent engine command override off. Engine arm off. 413 is in.
We've had shutdown.
We copy you down, Eagle.
Okay, everybody, T1. Stand by for T1.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.
The Eagle has landed, and I could see it here on my console. I saw the altitude go to 0. Couldn't believe it. We trained. I said, my God, we've made it. Charlie Duke at the time says, you've got a bunch of guys down here about to turn blue. Well, Charlie Duke could see me from his console position, and I've always thought he was talking about me.